Are Grey Jedi finally becoming Star Wars canon? Let's talk about it. So cool, you got Acolytes. I'm Jedi Starkiller, and this is the SK Base. Today is Wayseeker Wednesday, and today I want to talk about just that, Wayseekers, and their relationship to Grey Jedi. Now, before we start, Grey Jedi are not canon. They never were canon, and they're never going to be canon. But before you click away, I really want to take a second to talk to you about Wayseekers, what they are, and how they're sort of related to Grey Jedi, and probably the closest thing we're ever going to get in canon. But before we talk about Wayseekers, I want to take a second to talk about what people used to think a Grey Jedi was. There were two definitions of a Grey Jedi that were often bandied about. The first being a Jedi that uses both the light and dark side of the Force without ever falling and being corrupted. And this is a power fantasy, if we're being honest. The examples given were often Mace Windu and Revan. The problem being that Mace Windu never used the dark side. Now, his version of a pod, Form 7 in lightsaber combat, uses the opponent's dark side against them, but he never actually taps into the dark side himself. And Revan, well, Revan's a video game character first, and that is where this whole Grey Jedi really comes from, this definition. Because in that game, regardless of where you fall on the alignment spectrum, you can access both light and dark side abilities. And so the idea became cool of being a Grey Jedi, being able to be morally ambiguous and use both Force Heal and Force Lightning. And it's really cool and it works great in a video game. But we know that in canon it doesn't work like that because the dark side corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely. So we will never see this kind of Grey Jedi in Star Wars canon. So that brings us to the second definition. The second definition of a Grey Jedi was a Jedi that disagreed with the Council and walked a different path than that set for them by the Jedi Council. Examples of this are often Ahsoka and Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, my biggest problem with this definition comes down to the fact that I just don't like the term Grey Jedi, in the same way that I don't like the term Dark Jedi for a fallen Jedi. Because Jedi is a religious order, and therefore, if you follow the religious teachings, if you follow the will of the Council and the Order, you are a Jedi. Not a light Jedi, a dark Jedi, a Grey Jedi, none of that. You are simply a Jedi. Once you've, in the case of a dark Jedi, when you fall into the dark side, you're no longer a Jedi. You no longer ascribe to the teachings of the Order. So you're not a dark Jedi, you're just not a Jedi anymore. And like in the case of Ahsoka, she proclaims she is no Jedi. She leaves the Jedi Order. So she can't be a Grey Jedi. And in the case of Qui-Gon, he may disagree with the Council, but he never distances himself from the Order in any way. And so I wouldn't call him a Grey Jedi. I really disagree with that. But that's kind of why I like this concept that I'm about to talk about of Wayseekers so much, is because that Qui-Gon Jinn sort of mentality is really, in my opinion, encapsulated by this concept of Wayseekers. So let's talk about, so far, the only Wayseeker we've met in canon, from Claudia Gray's Into the Dark, meet Orla Jareni. A Wayseeker is defined as a Jedi who operates independently from the dictates of the Jedi Council. Some Jedi's path to understanding the Force is independent. They need to do it themselves, if you will. Orla Jareni even mentions at one point that she and the Jedi Order no longer see eye to eye, but she'd never tell them that. But one important thing about Wayseekers is that they still operate within the Jedi Order. They still have rules and regulations that they have to follow, because although they're working independently, they are still representatives of the Jedi Council. And the Jedi want to make sure that these Wayseekers don't fall victim to selfishness and the dark side. So the skills that they have are still dangerous in the wrong hands. And so while Wayseekers are independent, they do have to follow a set of rules and protocols to ensure that they're not just out there falling prey to the dark side. Obviously, Wayseekers are not Grey Jedi, but you can kind of see the similarities between especially that second definition of Grey Jedis and what Wayseekers are in the era of the High Republic. So this begs the question, which I love questions like this: what happens that we don't necessarily see any Wayseekers in the prequel era? What happens between the High Republic and the prequels that makes Jedi realize that maybe operating independently is not for the best? But I do think there's an example of, even though he's not defined as one because the term didn't exist, I do think there is one Wayseeker in the prequel era that we do see, and that is Quinlan Vos. Quinlan Vos operates entirely independent of the Jedi Council, but he is still a Jedi Master. He's still in communication with the Council. Every now and then he takes jobs that the Council gives him, like in the book Dark Disciple when they hire him to murder Count Dooku. But Quinlan Vos feels to me the perfect example from canon of a Jedi Wayseeker. But what do you guys think? How do you feel about Wayseekers sort of taking the place of, but also giving us Grey Jedi in canon? Personally, I think the name is a lot better than Grey Jedi, and I think that it fixes some of the problems that I had with Grey Jedi. But what do you think? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And until next time, for light and life, for the Republic, this is the way.
You are now leaving the SK base. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And never forget, the Force will be with you, always.